What is it that I guess Europeans would benefit from and still in the credit for the Egyptian or any kind of black civilization? I guess namely Egyptian because of what they've done with films, media, and stuff like that.
What do they have to gain from ensuring that we don't believe that those are Africans, that are we descend, or those are our people?
Look at the world today. Who controls it? Who controls it? In terms of science, religion, labor law, you go down the list. They control everything. And in their controlling it, they present everything as flattering to themselves as they can. This suggests to the world and to their children that we're superior, we're better, we're dominant, and we always have been. So that's one thing. In other words, the history, not only we're dominant control now, we always have been. Secondly, I believe that they know. See, I don't know whether you can observe materially what's happened, and I also think there's the collective unconscious, the subconscious, genetic memory, and karma. As a spiritual person, I believe in karma. What goes along something like I think they understand subconsciously, because I think all of us, if you get really, really quiet, can dig into the, everything is known to the subconscious, but consciously we don't remember. Like, you don't even remember when you learned to tie your shoes, but that did happen. Subconsciously, you know you learned to tie it. Okay. On some level, they know how powerful we are in terms of survival and achievement. I think it's subconscious, but it's also conscious. You watch one basketball game, you know who's superior. I mean, there's some things are clear on their face. And even when you look at the political situation, I think in one sense we were blessed to have Obama because he would say no drama Obama. He set a bar for character and intelligence, achievement, all those things. In many ways, in spite of themselves, they're showing the world how great we are. At the same time, they're maintaining the myth of white supremacy. But the bottom line is I'm going to control everything, everybody. You must know that I'm superior. And I start with giving you my white interpretation of God. And all of our churches are inundated with that. And our children used to be taught that, until they're 5 years old. You have incorporated and inculcated in that person a worshiping of white people. When you make Jesus white, as Francis Russell said, God has to be, because they can only produce white. You follow me? So it reinforces their ego, it reinforces their control, and it reinforces the brainwash that they've been from the world. So that is, to me, the benefit that comes to not only them individually, but to their system. We're getting ready to go into Christmas. You can't convince black people to boycott that. Even if we put more money in our pockets, look, some little white fat man did not come down a chimney in my house, okay? But even Santa Claus, the guy who gives you, he's white, okay? Every concept is white. And so it reinforces the lie. Now, I have another theory, and Rashidi doesn't believe in this. Okay. You know, we can disagree on that.
He doesn't even know what it... Anyway, go ahead.
No, but you told me you did.
All right, well, tell us again.
Okay. My theory is that I definitely believe in karma, okay? And I theorize that when black people, somebody told me, I don't know how true this is just an aside. I was at a conference, this guy said years ago before they had all this aerial photography and stuff, that there was a huge wall across the top of the Sahara. A huge wall, like the Great Wall of China. and you'd be able to see it, you know, if you had the proper aerial. Okay. I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, we erected a wall to keep those sea people, white people, out of Africa. Okay, when they came about. I do know that according to the Greek historians, people like Diodorus and Herodotus, that the Middle Kingdom pharaohs, some of the blackest pharaohs of all, went into Europe, portions of it, Eastern Europe particularly. They also went to India and different places. And they wreaked havoc, according to what the Greek wrote down. And by that I mean,
This is Legrand Clegg.
When they
Legrand Clegg, an Egyptologist.
the whites would have, I don't know if you want to call them cities, but settlements. And they go in and destroy them. And if the whites didn't fight with valor, and after they conquered them, they would carve a vagina on the wall saying they fought like women. Okay. The other thing is one of the pharaohs would, when they bring his army and conquer a white settlement, he was on a chariot, and he would replace the horses with the royal family.
So you're saying like ultimately it's revenge, right?
Yeah.
Is that the bottom line?
Theory.
No.
I have
A lot of people feel that way.
sorry, but you're touching me right now because
No, because
I think
do.
it is in a way too, but I don't have, you give me like a little more proof or,
Yeah, and
your angle of proof.
Right, and I want to go down the list because I think that's an element. I'm not saying it's the only thing, and it certainly is not the consciousness, but I think it is an element. When you think about him, Thutmose III wreaked havoc all over the Mediterranean. Taharqa went as far as Spain. According to Van Serma, there was a king out of West Africa called Bacchus who conquered Spain for a while. Then you had Hannibal. Okay, then you had the Moors. And the tradition of the Moors, and Rashidi is the one who really lays all that out. The Moors, though they civilized them, nobody wants to be conscious. And according to Rashidi, during the Middle Ages, they referred to the Moors as devils and had negative images of them, all that. And there was a 600 or 700 years, almost 800 years of dominance in Spain by the blacks and Arabs, mulattoes to me. During that time, there was much pushback by the staff. In other words, nobody wants to be enslaved. Okay. Ultimately, when Isabella and Ferdinand kicked the Moors out, took back over control. Oh, let me say this too. During Moorish rule, according to Van Serma, the black pirates dominated the Mediterranean and sold many white people into slavery and to the Arabs.
It's light in your eye.
I find that really hard to put my head around, but he said, what is it? Now, when Moorish rule ended and they were driven out, one day 50,000 were killed, and they submitted to Spain and further north, England, so on and so on. According to Rashidi again, when they got to England, Queen Elizabeth said everything but build the walls. Get these niggas out of here. I mean, she just said, get them out, because they developed an animosity toward their former conquerors, okay? And when the Spanish began to trade with Africans further south, first in pepper, then in gold, different things, and gradually prisoners of war, and then the horrendous slave trade began, the tables turned, and I say that superimposed on all of whatever, this was slavery for profit, but there was already a bit of animus toward their former conquerors, whom they called Moors. When they came over to the New World and so much stuff, they called them Moors or black men. Right? So this behavior, I believe, became institutionalized and internalized over time. It wasn't conscious. It just devolved, into a sentiment of resentment. That was part of it. You see, and everything else is it. So today you ask, like, why do you hate me so much? I don't know. I do. Okay? And to acknowledge that would acknowledge our form of greatness and that we once dominated them and to acknowledge that would mean, well, this white supremacy is nonsense because you weren't always supreme. You follow? So that's just thinking that I have been engaged in terms of, and you know, everything's undergirded by spiritual realities too. If indeed the concept is what goes around comes around has any validity, this would be reflective of it, especially when you consider how far we have fallen as a great people. That's not by accident. That's triggered by something. And I mean, that's not necessarily only material, okay? So my argument, and when I've expressed it to the average black person, I was on radio talking about this guy called in. You know, I have always wondered about that. I've always thought about it. And when I spoke at a law school last year, and I laid it out at the end, I said, white people's problem is a white law school. I laid it all out. I said, so the message is, this animosity and revenge is so impervious, we should stop appealing to their conscience and just exercise our economic power. If you boycott Walmart, CVS, and Sears, these white people change tomorrow. Go, you know, asking them to stop killing your children, or just so, oh, you know what? I'm not gonna buy into my degradation. So I'm gonna boycott Walmart. Let's see what you think about that. As a matter of fact, no black. I'm gonna boycott Christmas and the mall. Period.
Right.
Okay? It's not about your heart. It's about my survival. You follow? And you know, and I factored in this impervious, hostile feeling toward us. It's just so visceral that it doesn't make ordinary sense. In other words, we built the country, we did this, we tried to do this, we put on our cologne, we do our hair. Why do you hate me so much? There may be other reasons, but a part of it, I say, is a sense of vengeance. Okay, and that's just my theory. You know, and it can be disproven. You know, it's just a thing I feel.